Welcome back, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in to 726 right here in Harrison, Arkansas. Our first guest today is in the studio, Chief Chris Graddy, and he's been in law enforcement in one phase or another. We were talking about that a little earlier, from way back when.
Actually started as a radio operator for the Harrison Police Department in 1987, so
Wow.
a little over 33 years.
Were you interested in law enforcement at that time, and did you know that you would be an officer and eventually be chief? Was that your goal? Or?
I was in college and
Just needed some money, huh?
Well, no, I was interested in law enforcement, and I was actually working toward my degree in criminal justice. So while I went to school here at NAC, I worked full time as a radio operator, and it just took hold. And 33 years later, here I am.
So have you been in that field ever since?
Ever since,
Okay.
19-year-old.
Yeah.
I was 19-year-old and worked for the police department here till early 90s. I believe it was 94. I went to Logan County Sheriff's Department as a deputy sheriff down there for 2 years. Then state police hired me in January 96 and sent me to my assignment was Boone County Highway Patrol.
That's nice.
I said, y'all have made a mistake. They said, what do you mean? I said, that's home. And I said, so I stayed, and then I retired, of course, and took the position as chief January of last year.
Good. That's good.
So,
Well, it just seems to be a great thing that it just flowed together for you.
it did. It really worked out well. I was blessed the way everything came together. So.
Yeah. Well, now that you're in the chief's position, I noticed us following some of the city council meetings. There's been some changes going on, and you're kind of the figurehead and wanting some changes. And you want to talk a little bit about
You
those
bet.
things?
Dan, we've got a couple of exciting things going on. First and foremost, we're that close to breaking ground on our new facility, public safety building. That will be on Industrial Park Road behind the mall where the softball field is by Fire Station number 2. So that's where it will be. It will be the Central Fire Station, Police Department, and City Hall.
So the original fire station there will be changed?
It will, once the new building is built, it will be taken down.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
Right, sure will. And they will still maintain a station downtown
Right.
and at
And
the
the
airport. Yeah.
Okay.
To make
Okay.
sure the city's covered. So,
Okay.
and that will be that's something that we've needed for a long time. The building we're in, I think, is a 1952 model.
Right.
And well,
And then back in the 70s, there was an explosion, which
in the late 70s, 78, 79, the
Yeah.
phone company blew up right there behind it and damaged some of the building. The building is actually kind of pieced together with a cable type system
some
and
duct tape.
well, fire department, you can actually look down and
Is that right?
and see from the
Wow.
top to the bottom. So
Wow.
yeah, that's. But that it is what it is, and
Yeah.
with the people passed a tax in 2014 for police and fire to help with a new facility, and 6 years later we're trying to move forward
that.
with it, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people's concern, oh, we don't want any more taxes. Well, there's not. This tax has been around for the last 6
been
years,
around. Okay.
and we're going to continue to use it to do with it what the people wanted
Yeah.
done, and that was equipment and buildings for us.
You
So.
have to operate
You
on
bet.
a daily basis.
Well, we're in the same square footage right now that we were when I went to work in 1987, and our department is more than doubled
Right.
in size. So,
Right.
Yeah, we have. I have 6 supervisors in patrol that share one office.
Bet that's fun.
About a third of the size of this room here. So
Wow.
yeah, it is.
Long overdue.
It is. It is. We need this badly, and I feel fortunate that we're moving forward with
Yeah.
it. So
Something happened last week. We had, with all the riots and monuments being torn down and everything,
Right.
there was an event that happened here.
we actually had a couple of demonstrations or protests
Yeah.
that happened a couple of days in a row on June 4th and 5th.
And as the chief of police, knowing something like that's coming, I guess you were forewarned, or there was an announcement, or
A lot of stuff, well, and yes to both. Some of the groups actually called and said they wanted to do a planned protest. They ensured that it was peaceable. They they reached out to us, and we visited with them and pretty well got an itinerary of what they wanted to do, and we accommodated them as best we could. But social media being what social media is, there was a lot of fear, a lot of things being said by people that didn't even come here or didn't even show up or didn't even live here.
Right.
And so that, that created a lot of concern in a lot of our citizens here.
Did it keep you? Did it make you proactive and in thinking out the scenarios of what may happen? I guess that's probably your job. to
Yeah.
do
Oh,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. We were concerned if someone with a different opinion, showed up that would try to instigate something, or if someone in the group that was wanting to protest would try to instigate something with someone else. So we had the location and where they planned to protest, and so I reached out to Sheriff Tim Robertson, the sheriff with the Boone County Sheriff's Department, state police, and other state agencies, highway police, game and fish, probation and parole, our 14th Judicial Drug Task Force. We had several hands on deck. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, they helped us with some of the social media as far as giving us some information along those lines. So it was quite the undertaking there for about 3 days.
That probably helps you to working with police and state police, having your hand or a past history with those other agencies to reach out to those guys.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, that's something that, having a background and or experience in law enforcement, I knew several people to call, and we all were on the same page, and we're all here for one common goal, and that's to keep the peace and protect our citizens and their property, and that's what we were going to do. So
Thankfully, all the negative things were unfounded. It didn't happen.
100%.
So
good.
we're very thankful for
That
that.
makes
our
And
job
it was
easy.
a peaceful protest.
It
and,
was.
It was good.
And like I said, you had two opposing sides probably down there, and I don't even know that I'd call them opposing sides, because both sides obviously wanted it to be peaceful and to have no damage to property or anything like that, and that's exactly what we had.
Yeah.
But I told somebody, I said, you always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So we were prepared as best that we could. So
Anything else
What
going
else?
on in the city from your department that you want to talk about? Of course, we always ask you to come back at
you
other
bet.
times. Yeah.
Well, one thing I did want to mention is the new 911 center that we're combining. Sheriff Robinson and I have talked quite a bit about this, and we want to have our radio operators in the same building with our 911 operators. Because right now, when you call 911, you actually have to give your information, and if you need the police, they have to take your information, then they have to transfer that to either the sheriff's department or the police department, depending on the jurisdiction. And that's just time that we need to eliminate. We don't need people telling their story twice. If you have a true emergency, you probably may not have enough time to tell one person,
Right.
much less two.
Right.
Right.
So we're actually hoping to get that up and running next month. So we'll have the county sheriff's department, city police department, the 911 operators. That way, if you do have a fire or police emergency, you make one phone call and it will be dispatched immediately.
Awesome.
Good
That's,
deal.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So
Very-
I think
very
that'll be a benefit to all of our citizens here in Boone County and Harrison, as far as cutting down response time, and I think that's just a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, great. Chris Graddy, thank you so much for being here, and great information, and sounds like you're doing a good job.
Thank you, Dan. Thank
Come
you,
back
Dan.
and visit with us.
I will
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Up next, we have representatives from the Boone County Library. We'll talk about they're open now, and we'll talk about the procedure on how you go in
All right.
and other things that are happening at the library. Stay with us.